experts on bringing in and utilized as needed, especially roofing and the site work plans already completed for those very specific areas. And that was it. Any questions? It was a very brief
Only
meeting.
that?
No, it was great. So much
I know,
information.
I heard that was a hefty one, that you had a lot on that agenda, so thank you for the recap. Were there any questions for Finance Committee? I just want to confirm, I know that in John's update this week, it sounds like we're still on a tight timeline with the ASD Center, but we're still on track, correct? Yeah? Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, Ann, for that.
Happy to help.
Okay. We have our first reading for field trips. Those were in your board packets. If you have any questions on those are recurring. Item 7, we have our Sex Ed Advisory Board update with Anita.
Thank you. Good evening again. I'm going to just put this down. So I am here to provide a update on the current Sex Education Advisory Board's work and progress based on Board Policy 5420. I am also going to provide a brief overview of our current sex education program, acknowledging that some of our board members may not be aware, or even our public may not be aware of when that those lessons take place within our system, and then also present the 2-year report that is again required per our board policy. So just a quick overview about our current sex education program. So from a legal standpoint, a district has an option to either provide sex education or not. And when the district decides to provide it, a sex education advisory board is required by law for that work. So currently, sex education is currently taught at 5th grade, at 7th grade, and in 9th through 12th grade. Most of our kids take those the class in 9th grade, but we do have kids who have different electives or different pathways that may take it in other grades as their schedule allows. Parents and guardians have the right to view curriculum ahead of lessons. In fact, when the letter goes out to families, it often has a link right to the materials, and those were linked in the 2-year report for you. I do acknowledge that there was an error in one of the links, and I corrected it, so they should be all accessible now. And then parents and guardians have the right to opt their child out of some or all of the instruction. So when a parent might preview the lessons, they may opt out of specifically lesson 2 and 3, and they're okay with lessons 1 and 4 as an example. Or some parents will opt them out of the entirety of the instruction. And that is certainly a right, because you will see not only is that supported in board policy and in law, but also it is one of our guiding principles that we believe the parent is the first educator of this area of health. So under our board policy 5420, the Sex Education Advisory Board's purpose is to establish the sex education program goals and objectives, and for student knowledge and skills that are likely to reduce rates of sex, pregnancy, and sexually transmitted diseases. The purpose of the board is to also review materials and methods of instruction, make recommendations to the board, and evaluate and measure the attainment of the program goals every 2 years. So currently, the Sex Education Advisory Board is made up of 22 members who apply to be part of the board, community members. Melissa Matthey is a sex education supervisor approved by the Michigan Department of Education. That approval comes with having the right credentials, teaching certificates, and background in order to be able to serve in that role. I think she's actually next door coaching volleyball right now as we speak. By law, we have to have members in the following categories: so parents, staff, students, healthcare professionals, and clergy. and staff cannot make up more than 50% of the group. So the majority have to be members of the community that are not associated as an employee with the district. So far, our group has had 4 meetings. We actually have had 5 scheduled that could have been held, but we had a snow day for one of them, and we ended up canceling that. The current Sex Education Advisory Board has reviewed the current goals, objectives, concepts, and skills taught. And the current advisory board has also created and sent out a survey to the community to gain their feedback on health education and specifically sex education. The results were linked in the slide for you as well. So while we've only had 4 meetings, they've been mighty because the community survey is a pretty big lift in this area of health. Okay. So in your board packet, you should have a 3-page report that is labeled a 2-year report on achievement of goals and objectives. This is a template right from the state that we modeled our 2-year report after. The purpose of the 2-year report is to communicate approved goals, objectives, curriculum, the philosophy of the program, and program evaluation. So I just want to dive a little bit deeper I'm going to start with program philosophy. There are multiple bullet points in the 2-year report around program philosophy, but I want to lift up a couple of key important ones. The first one is we believe the parent and family has the greatest influence on positive growth, development, and sexual health education. And schools can partner with parents in providing curriculum resources, information, and support. And the information is anchored in clinical facts and definitions. And so everybody's upbringing is a little bit different, and my mom might be mortified by me saying this, but as an example, I think my parents really relied on me getting this education in my schooling because it may have been an uncomfortable conversation for them to have with me at home, and vice versa. Some homes are very comfortable and want that to only come from the home and maybe slightly supported at school, and we recognize that those experiences are different for everybody, and our job is to support families and kids where they are. As far as under objectives, there are several objectives for the sex education program. So at the end of the K-12 HIV, STI, and sex education program of instruction, students will be able to, and again, there's about 8 or 9 bullets there, but I want to highlight a few. One is to analyze characteristics of healthy and unhealthy relationships. Another includes evaluating positive and negative influences on sexual decisions. And another, and this is required, that if we offer this education as a state, we have to advocate for abstinence as the only 100% effective way to avoid pregnancy, HIV, and STIs. So again, just highlighting a few of the key objectives, but they're all listed there for you. From a curriculum standpoint, you will see that the current Board of Advisory Board has reviewed our current curriculum, and they continue to recommend it in anticipation of new standards being approved by the state in December. But I have linked, Melissa and I actually have linked the materials for 5th grade, for 7th grade, for the 9th and 10th grade, and then for the online course. So some of our kids do elect to take it online, and that was linked for you as well. And then finally, from a program evaluation standpoint, currently, all of the assessments that students participate in when it comes to the sex education lessons are individually scored and individually assessed. So the teacher is keeping the records of how the students are doing. However, that's not really in line with what the Sex Education Board is asked to do. we are charged with actually evaluating the program. And so that's an area of improvement for us. We need to establish an assessment or a check-in point, likely at the high school level, because this is an evaluation of the entire program, to see, are we meeting the goals and objectives that we set. We know individually students are meeting them because they're being assessed along the way, but we need to be able to evaluate our whole program. So you're going to see in the next steps that's an area that we need to improve and be more in line with the policy and the report. So next steps for the Sex Education Advisory Board is, reviewing the new health standards. Those were approved in December of 2025. Specifically, not all of the standards. This group will focus just on the sex education standards. They are comprehensive health standards that get into eating and social emotional well-being and mental health, but the SEAB focuses only on the sex education standards. We want to do a side-by-side comparison between the 2007 and the 2025 standards to see what is really the difference between this set of standards and the second set of standards. At first glance, there's just a couple of areas that are different. We want to make sure that we are comprehensive in our approach. MDE, or the Michigan Department of Education, has advised, and so has Oakland County, advised districts not to start a curriculum rewrite or revision until at least the summer or fall, because they are working on documents to accompany the standards, so to better explain them and define them. And so we will probably follow that lead and hold off so that we have more guidance. We also want to look at our MyFi data and consider another community survey. So at our last meeting, with the new standards, there are a couple of sections that are worded differently than how we surveyed parents about them last spring. And so the SEAB board members have talked about maybe reissuing another survey with a couple of condensed, explicit areas that we want to see where the community is on that. We want to consider potential revisions. So based on the survey feedback, which really is accounting for community input, the new standards and the data we have from MyFi, we want to consider what revisions are needed. If the board is recommending revisions and we do make revisions, we have to bring the curriculum to the board and present it, and there has to be a public viewing period where the public can provide input on what we have put together. And if there is feedback for us, we go back and adjust it and then we bring it back again. And the goal will be to just keep doing that until we get to a point where we can take it to you to approve. And then finally, next step is creating a measurement tool for the high school level, again, for program evaluation. Currently, we are in line with having assessments, but not as it is intended in the 2-year report. So that's an area we want to improve and have in place by next spring so that we can begin measuring our outcomes and our objectives. Thank you. What questions might you have? I know I'm between you and like John, who everybody loves, so yeah.
Any questions, comments on that? No?
All right.
Thank you for your work on that.
Thank you very much.
And we have John up next with that nice welcome.
Okay, now I have to get my serious face back on. Good evening. Tonight, first thing to talk about is the consensus revenue estimating conference that occurred last week. It's kind of the unofficial, official beginning of budget season. That's when the powers that be in Lansing and some economic forecasting goes on, and they all get together and take a look at where things are looking from a funding point of view. So just a quick overview, corporate income tax is down 15%, and this is measured against last May to this January, those last two meetings. Net income tax revenue is rising steadily, which is a good thing. That's about 40% of the general fund of the state and the school aid fund. The pupil count district or statewide is down 10,000. The state's been losing, or the student count statewide has been declining for literally decades now. The school aid fund itself is forecasted to be about a little over 200 million above where they forecasted it last May. That's the good news. The bad news is the general fund is forecasted about 980 million less than they forecasted. So the conclusion after all the paperwork and the final conclusion is from a school aid fund and school district point of view, when the general fund gets the sniffles, the school aid fund catches the cold. So there's going to be a lot of budget pressure built up to do something not dissimilar from last year, that somehow they're going to utilize shifting things around, so the school aid fund is going to carry a bigger burden off the general fund to try and meet their funding needs. This is only January. Maybe things will pick up from an economic point of view, and it won't be as starkly laid out such as it has this past January. And the next steps will be the governor and the House and the Senate will put forth their proposals, and that'll slide right into May and start hopefully getting things moved to a conclusion sometime before October this time around. We're supposed to have it done by the end of June. Any questions on that? You want me to just slide right into the next group area? Okay. So we did some good news. It's the first reading too of another. We once again have a very generous anonymous donor who wants to cover the cost of a weight room refresh over at the high school. And based on advice of our legal counsel, the use of a short-term lease documentation agreement will be how the donor will convey the donation to the district. Very same model as this past summer with the turf and the field. The timelines, again, this is first reading too on this document. The timeline associated with the short-term lease is March 30 through April 24. There's the expectation is to be done a week before that, but there's a week built in just in case there's an unexpected timeline or unexpected event that stretches the timelines. We also did get a cash donation from Mid-Michigan Materials / Koenig Materials. Generously donated $10,000 to the athletics program to help cover the cost of the windscreen that's gone up over at Wildcat Stadium. It is recommended the Board of Education to accept the monetary donation of $10,000 to subsidize the cost of the windscreen at the Wildcat Stadium, is provided by Mid-Michigan Materials and Koenig Materials LLC. And that also is under first reading, so next meeting will be back for formal approval. And last but not least, it's that time of year too for schools of choice. This is tonight's first reading. It's the schools of choice for school year 26-27, first semester. It's recommended the following enrollment opportunities for schools of choice applicants. So first semester / trimester for 2026, developmental kindergarten through 9th grade and unlimited. And the timeframes on that will be open between March 2nd of 2026 and close on August 7th of 2026. And then from 10th and 11th grades, unlimited to IB, Health Science, Engineering Academy, Dance Conservatory, Early College, with enrollment open from March 2 through August 7th. And then for developmental kindergarten through 12th grade, unlimited for Oxford Virtual Academy. So time frame on that enrollment will be March 2, 2026 through August 13, 2026. And again, this is first reading. Any questions on any of the subjects that I rolled through pretty quick?
Questions, comments? No. Thank you for the update. I really do hope that they get their things together before October this year. That created a horrible period of uncertainty for not only our staff, but the community, everyone. That was just awful. And I really hope that they can get it together this year. So good news, bad news. And then, of course, thank you to our anonymous and open donors. That is very generous and very much appreciated. So excellent. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All All right, unscheduled, do we have any tonight? No. All right. Scheduled activities, we have our workshop this Friday. Hope to have full board attendance at that. We have Student Count Day coming up. That's always a fun one. And, of course, midwinter break. Any administrative clarification, Dr. Milligan?
Just a couple first. Again, I want to thank Principal Murphy for a great presentation, and especially the students and families who came. That was really special, and these cards are just amazing. So thank you for coordinating that. That was amazing. The other thing is I forgot to remind everybody, so tomorrow is our talent show at the high school. As a former high school principal, that was probably one of my favorite events. It's amazing what our kids can do, and they just come up to the stage and just do it. It's incredible. So if you have time to go tomorrow from 6 to 8 in the PAC, you will not be disappointed. Last year we got snowed out, I think, so fingers crossed that this year it's a go. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, final board comments. Jane?
I want to echo the appreciation for the students hanging out, the effort to make these cards for us is absolutely awesome. It'll be going up in my office at home. I also wanted to thank the Oxford Addison Youth Assistance Board and staff for the card and the gift card that they provided to each of us, so thank you for that. Finally, I just want to make sure that I took a moment and humbly spoke to some words that I had stated last meeting. Evidently, my aim was off the mark when it came to some of the comments I made regarding the bullying data. In no way, shape, or form would I ever go out of my way to insinuate or state that I don't believe our staff is doing a great job. I said earlier, I think we have the best staff around. So I apologize that my statement missed the mark and that it hurt people and that it obviously upset folks. So I can do better. I will do better. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Shane. Anyone else? All right. Well, it is 9:18 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming.